Hi, welcome to our on-demand for February 5th. I'm going to play the beginning of Beethoven's symphony, so if you need to take your headsets off, please do so. It's going to be a little bit loud. I'll give you a second to do that. Well, if you haven't guessed it by now, we are studying today Ludwig van Beethoven, and that was his Fifth Symphony. Our objectives: you will learn key concepts about Beethoven's music and life and review the Romantic era in music history. Pennsylvania Department of Education standards relate works in the arts to varying styles and genre and to the periods in which they were created. True or false? Introduction question. Beethoven went blind as well as deaf. Hopefully you got that. That was false. He only went deaf. He did not go blind. Sickness and health. Beethoven was chronically ill for many years, suffering from stomach aches, depression, and irritability. But the source of his illness has never been fully understood. Recently, researchers tested some of his bone fragments and confirmed that Beethoven suffered from massive lead poisoning that could have caused many of his symptoms and may have even caused his death. Lead poisoning used to be much more common than it is now, since lead was often found in tableware and was added to wine and other food and drink. So, did researchers dig up Beethoven's grave to get bone samples? Nope. The bones came from a California businessman who had inherited them as part of a family legacy. At first, this person wasn't sure if the bones actually belonged to the composer, so he sent them off to be compared to the DNA in Beethoven's hair, which is owned by the Beethoven Society. The DNA was a match. On the advice of his doctor, Beethoven spent some time in the summer of 1812 at Teplice, a resort in what is currently the Czech Republic. While there, it is believed that he wrote a series of letters addressed to a woman whom he called only Immortal Beloved. Beethoven never married, and scholars disagree on exactly whom the letters were addressed to. Recent evidence suggests a woman named Antoinette Brentano, pictured there, the wife of a Frankfurt businessman with whom Beethoven spent considerable time during that period. There are 3 letters. The last one, written the morning of July 7th, ends, "Be calm, love me, today, yesterday. What tearful longings for you, you, my life, my all, farewell. Oh, continue to love me, never misjudge the most faithful heart of your beloved. Ever thine, ever mine, ever ours." Real life. Beethoven's Symphony No. 9 was performed for the first time in Vienna in 1824. Now, he only wrote 9 symphonies. He wrote all kinds of music, but only 9 symphonies. So this was his last. So it was performed the first time in Vienna in 1824, along with some parts from another piece, the Missa Solemnis. Because of his deafness, Beethoven couldn't conduct the work, but he gave the tempo before each new movement. The concert was an incredible success. At the time, however, the story goes that Beethoven had his back to the audience and couldn't hear the roar of the applause. One of the young singers took his hand and turned him around to see the 5 standing ovations that he was given, an incredible sight in a time when even royalty only got 3. So that Beethoven could see the ovation, even if he couldn't hear it, the audience raised their hands, lifted their hats, and waved their handkerchiefs in the air. It was a fitting tribute to one of the greatest composers who has ever lived. To get a sense of what that must have been like, you can check out the 1994 film titled Immortal Beloved, starring English actor Gary Oldman. The film recreates the scene and atmosphere quite well. Quotables. Ludwig van Beethoven. His funeral was held on March 29, 1827, and attended by upwards of 20,000 people. The funeral oration was written by Franz Grillparzer, pictured there on the left, at the time the most famous poet in Vienna, and read by actor Heinrich Anschutz. It is still famous today. It reads in part, "We stand weeping over the broken strings of an instrument now stilled. An instrument now stilled. Let me call him that, for he was an artist, and what he was only through art. The thorns of life had wounded him deeply. He withdrew from his fellow men after he had given them everything and had received nothing in return. He remained alone because he found no second self. But until his death he preserved a human heart for all men, a father's heart for his own people, the whole world. Thus he was, thus he died, thus he will live for all time." Whenever during your lives the power of his works overwhelms you like a coming storm, when your rapture pours out in the midst of a generation yet unborn, then remember this hour and think. I'm normally in class, and if you want to, feel free to find the words to the word search. Beat, Beethoven, Daft Dynamics, Metronome, 9 Symphonies, Orchestra, Romantic Era, Strings, Symphony No. 5, and Ticking. Closure. How many people attended Beethoven's funeral? A, 10,000, B, 20,000, C, 100,000. I hope you got that right. Very first sentence, Ludwig van Beethoven's funeral was held on March 29, 1827, and attended by upwards of 20,000 people. So it was B, 20,000 or more. Our Beethoven quiz is due February 9th. Watch the movie titled Great Composers, Beethoven. You still have to take the quiz even if you cannot watch the movie. If that is the case, you should call tech, tell them it is an MP4 file. Use this PowerPoint for help, and I also have the PowerPoint uploaded individually in BrainHoney if you need to read through it without me talking. Have a great day, everybody. Have a nice weekend. We'll see you Monday. Take care.